attorneys, Pauline, Earl Gray again, really reacted physically to that and say, Judge, we at least want to be heard. We want to make our motion for dispositional departure to argue that until sentencing, she should be allowed to remain out on bond. Let me start with you, Lee. In Minnesota, are you surprised that the defense made this oral motion?
I'm not. They wanted to get something on the record. I certainly don't think they were prepared for this type of outcome, unfortunately, especially right on the eve of Christmas. And what Regina Chu, Judge Chu, stated, and I've appeared before Judge Chu many, many times, she is going to follow what we do consistently in Minnesota. And she said, you can say this on the record, you can file your motions, but today will be the day that we take Ms. Potter into custody.
You know, this is it's it's so hard to watch from the emotional standpoint for both sides. Some would argue. And Joy, I want to ask, do we have any information about, we just talked about Kimberly Potter's not emotional. Earl Gray, I felt like was, and he's personally, I think, invested in the case and zealously advocated for his client. Any color of the courtroom in terms of Kim Potter's family and that emotion, and or of Dante Wright's family and an emotional response to this verdict?
Yeah, and we have our court TV crew inside of that courtroom, and I know that they're tracking things right now. Our Grace Wong, who is senior director of courtroom coverage, did share that Wright's parents were in the courtroom, as well as Potter's husband and two sons. Katie Wright, apparently very emotional while the verdicts were read, burst into tears and cried. Potter's sons were holding hands. They remained stoic as the guilty verdicts were read, according to Grace Wong. And when Potter was being remanded, her husband yelled out, "I love you, Kim." And then after the judge cleared the bench, Potter's family and her lawyers, were escorted to the back, presumably to say their goodbyes.
And after the motion was made and the judge said, no defense, I'm not going to grant that motion, Kimberly Potter's been convicted of first-degree manslaughter, second-degree manslaughter. She is not going to remain out on bond. After that, she said, I cannot, and I wrote it down as a quote, Judge Chu, I cannot treat this case any differently from any other case. John, do you agree with the judge that really there was no choice? After a conviction of both first degree and second degree manslaughter, she needed to be remanded into custody.
I absolutely think that that was to be expected. And as she correctly points out, that is very typical. There's thousands, tens of thousands of young black men in drug cases that get remanded into custody after a conviction. And if she was to treat this white officer any differently, it would have raised a lot of eyebrows. But frankly, she already had her mind made up, and she should have waited for a motion from the state to remand somebody into custody instead of just doing it on her own. So I was a little surprised, and and that could be fodder for appeal, that she kind of had her mind made up. In addition to the comment to the jurors about how they're heroes, seeming to endorse the verdict. So there was maybe that was typical for this judge, but it just rang very strange in my ears.
Yeah, and I did notice both, like I said, both attorneys reacting when she said remanded into custody. They kind of acted like, what? We still need to know. We need to be heard about this. And again, all the emotions that we watch on the different players in the courtroom as we hear this play out. Again, guilty of both first degree manslaughter and second degree manslaughter. We do need to take a break, but we're going to take it now because coming up, Keith Ellison is expected to speak about this conviction for the state. Coming up next here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.